Hello and welcome to Tea and Tangles. I'm Debbie and I'm with the Tangled Heart. You can find me at thetangledheart.com, and I live in Fort Collins, Colorado, and I'm currently outside on a very overcast but warm, in the 60s or so, April day during the quarantine, the stay-at-home order in Colorado for the coronavirus. And I thought I would take some time today to share kind of an intro of Zentangle. And I do apologize as soon as I started. We have trucks going by. You may hear a serenade of a mariachi band in the background because there's construction going down the street, and I hear that they have the radio on. So it just makes for a more interesting sound effect, I think. But anyway, I thought I'd tell you a little bit about Zentangle. I am a certified Zentangle teacher. Briefly, I discovered Zentangle about 4 years ago, and I had suffered quite a bit of anxiety from an illness, and I had such bad anxiety that I could barely function. Tremors, not being able to talk, it was bad. And I discovered Zentangle kind of by accident, and there's a lady in the town near us that teaches it, and I decided I needed to try to do something to get out of the house, so I decided to take it. And as I continued doing it, I realized that my anxiety disappeared, and I became kind of addicted to it because my tremors would go away, my worry, the whole general anxiety just disappeared. So I decided, once I got a little better, that I got certified because I wanted to teach other people this amazing art form. And I don't want you to feel intimidated, because truly, if you can write, you can do this. This is just a general, we're going to learn 2 tangles today. And if you've already taken a Zentangle class, this can be a refresher for you. But I wanted to encourage everyone to do something creative during the stay-at-home period. It's so healthy mentally. You need to take care of yourself, and this is one way to do it. And I hope you enjoyed as much as I do. So we're going to get started. Now, because most people may not have a kit, if you do take a Zentangle class with me, you do get a kit, and you get a micron pen, and this is an 01. They have different sizes, 05, 08, and 005, which is very small. And it pertains to the nib of the pen. I don't know if you can see that very well, but that's the nib. And an 01 is the standard one that we use in Zentangle. This pen is really nice because it's archival ink and it's waterproof. So it doesn't fade, and you can actually wash it if you put it in with this particular paper, especially if you put it through the washing machine, it actually will not bleed or fade or anything. So it's really nice, especially if you want to watercolor or paint or use markers over it. It won't bleed, which is really nice. But you don't have to have that. Also in a kit you would get a number 2 pencil, but you can use any pencil you have. Just a standard pencil, and you'll notice that this doesn't have an eraser on it. That's because in Zentangle there are no mistakes, only opportunities. And I know that sounds kind of scary to some people, not to have an eraser, but the more you do it, the more you realize that, yeah, it's okay to maybe do something that you might think is a mistake, but you can change it in the long run. You can make things, you can turn it into something positive. So that's one reason why they have that. This is a tortillon, or a blending stick. This comes in a kit. And if you don't have one, which odds are you probably don't unless you've taken a Zentangle class or another art class, you can use a Q-tip, you can use a tissue, and when we get to the shading part, I will explain how to do that. Also in a kit, you would normally get this Zentangle paper, and it's usually blank on this side, but this is one that I've done just as making it for somebody. And this paper is a cotton paper. It's a very nice, has a nice tooth to it, so it has a nice, it grips the graphite really well. Has a nice feel to it. This is made specifically for Zentangle in the oldest paper mill in the world. They're all die cut, so they're all the same size, but I kind of like this uneven edge that they have going on. It's really cool. So for today, since we are in quarantine and it's difficult to get supplies and everything, plus I want you to experience Zentangle for yourself at home, and so you can use whatever you have around the house. Today I'm just going to use, it's a black gel pen, just a regular writing pen, and my number 2 pencil. And for this, I'm also going to use just regular paper. This is a mixed media paper. It's not the greatest paper in the world, but it will work. You can use any type of paper. You'll find that paper that has like watercolor paper has a nice tooth to it. It has a texture to it that makes when you go to shade, it makes it a little nicer. But today, I'm going to use this as a template, so you can get a coaster or a postcard or anything to kind of divide whatever paper you choose up into a smaller section. But this paper is about the size of a coaster. And Zentangle is meant to be done in 15 to 30 minutes, really. Something that you can sit down and do and complete something, which is always nice. So, a couple different things about tangling. The patterns are called tangles, and they're mostly repeated patterns, is how I like to describe them. And if you can write I, C, S, and O, you can tangle. All the patterns are based on these shapes, these movements. And so we're going to do a couple today, and we're going to use a C and an O kind of shape, and we're going to do kind of this an I shape. And there are different steps in Zentangle, and the first one is gratitude. Taking a moment to just appreciate the paper that you have. You can feel it, kind of grounds yourself. Take a breath in, and really stop and just appreciate that you do have this paper. You have the time, you're taking the time to do this for yourself. Maybe make yourself a cup of tea. I call this tea in tangles because, yes, I do have some tea with me. It's a little odd looking. I made a chai tea with almond milk. Just time to take for yourself. This is time it's it's kind of a scary time in the world, and it's important to remember just to take some time off and from the worry and take a few minutes for yourself. So the first step is the gratitude. We've appreciated, we're thankful, and the next step we're going to take our pencil and you're going to put some little dots in the corner of your paper of the square. That's the second step. Little dots in the corner. They don't have to be big, they don't have to be perfect, they don't have to be right in the center or anything. Another thing about Zentangle is we don't use rulers because we kind of want to get into the zen of things and the flow of things and just let things happen. And the dots have allowed us to, are grounded, we're kind of committed now, we're going to do something in this space. The next step is to do a border. And you want to lightly, and again, I like to take the side of my pencil, and you're going to lightly connect them. They do not need to be straight. They can be curved if you want. So you're going to end up with something like that. This isn't pencil, so it is a suggestion. The pencil marks will actually disappear as we do this. The next thing we're going to do is a string. And a string in tangling is where you divide it up, this interior section, into smaller sections. And because of the time for this video, we're going to do 2 tangles today. And so I'm going to somehow divide this up into 2 parts. I'm going to do something like that. You can do it straight down, you can do it at diagonal, you can do a fun curve, however you want to divide it up. Okay, so now we're ready to actually tangle. So the first one we're going to do is called printemps, which in French means spring. And so people actually tell me it looks more like a cinnamon roll, which I kind of have to agree with them. So in one of your 2 sections, whichever one you want, you are going to do, it's basically a spiral. So you're going to start in the center and you're going to move out, and as big or as small as you want, and then you're going to connect it back like that. Okay? The next one we're going to do is we're going to, when you hit that one, you're going to pick it up and pretend like it's going underneath, and then pick it up again, like that. So for every time you hit one, it's like, oop, it's going to go underneath. You might see a little bit there. It's going to go underneath that one and around. Now you can see that this is the border that I made, but I decided, I want to go over top of it. If I decided, no, I want to keep that, maybe I want that as a definite border, and I put one up here, I can do the same thing. I was like, no, I want that to stop there. It would pretend like it was coming over here, and so I would go over there, and I might end it over here. So what I'm going to have you do is pause here for a moment, fill up this, whichever section you chose, with your printemps shapes. And they can be small if you want. I will tell you that if they're very small, it's going to be a little harder to learn how to shade them. So feel free to make them bigger if you want. You can make them lots and lots of swirls, or you can make them bigger like that. So you're gonna fill the string that you made with the printemps. So if you want, you can pause here and come back in a moment and we'll do the next step. Okay, well, welcome back. So you should have something like that. Yours might be smaller, bigger, not as many, lots more, and that's okay. So now in these sections that are white, see, like in here, the next step is to fill that in. Like that. And it helps if you have maybe like if you're using a pen, if you have a marker, like a little Sharpie marker or something, it helps fill the space in if you have a lot. If you have them really tight and close together, then it's a matter of filling in these smaller sections. Okay? So you're going to fill that in. And let's say you want to maybe, especially the ones on the outer edge, I'm going to add a little bit right around it, not a whole lot maybe, but it helps to kind of give it a border almost. And you don't have to fill them all in. It does help though to give it some contrast, which makes it more interesting sometimes. And here, where it has, I decided to use the border as a line, I'm going to just make that a line like that. Kind of fill it in. Like so. And feel free to turn your paper as you need. It's actually encouraged so you can reach things a little easier. It's important to remember to breathe and to remember to every now and then, especially if you're going to sit and do it for a while, to stop and stretch your neck, stretch your hand out, put the pen down, kind of stretch your hand out, because you can get kind of cramped if you're not careful. So if you want, you can continue to follow along, or you can pause at any time. Fill yours in. Yours, you may be done already. I just happen to have a lot of space in here, so you can pause now and get to a point where you come back and we'll go to the next tangle. Okay, well, welcome back. I'm just finishing up here. Okay, so yours should look something like this. Yours might be bigger, it might be smaller, I find that tangles end up being a lot like someone's signature. And you can have 20 people in the room doing the same tangle, and when you put them all together, they're gonna look all completely different. And I think it's part of the magic of tangling, especially when you sit and do this with somebody. Okay, so here we have printemps, and that is using a C and an O kind of combination together, okay? So the next one we're going to do is called floors. And this is based on a graph pattern. And you'll find some of the tangles are based on graphs. Some of them are more organic looking, like leaves, kind of a leaf shape. But this one's based on a graph. And so in this final section that you have, and you might, if you did the bottom and you have the top part, if you want to turn it around, you can certainly do that. In fact, I might just turn mine this way so I can work a little bit better. And I've decided I'm going to do something like that, okay? Now, to practice, I would suggest not having them super tight, like really close together. Give it a little distance, especially since we have the room here. You should have a pretty good section to work in. So I'm going to do something like that. And then I kind of like the way that curve is, so I'm going to use that to my advantage. I'm going to do something like this. Okay? So the next step, if you need to pause, go ahead and you can finish your graph. And if you're back, then the next step is to everywhere that there's an intersection, you're going to put a triangle in, or a diamond shape rather. Just like that. Now over here you have the option of just leaving it like that, or you can pretend like, okay, well it's half of it, so I'm going to put a diamond shape there, and maybe part of one here. Okay, and you could do the same thing up here if you wanted to. The next, so I'm gonna, if you like, you can pause and you can finish all of your diamond shapes. Now you can see why if you have them really tight together, it's going to be very, very time consuming, which is fine, but in the matter of learning, just once you get a feel for how to do it. Okay, so if you want to pause here, you can, and if you are back, then the next step is to fill all of these in, just like that. Okay. And here's where, again, if you have a little bigger pen, like a little Sharpie, it makes it go a little faster, but it's also something really soothing about taking the time and filling it in. The microns pens that I showed you earlier come in different sizes, so that if you had an 05 or an 08, the nib is bigger so you can get more ink down. Okay, so if you like, you can pause here and continue working on your little diamond shapes. And if you're done already, then I will be done in just a moment and we can continue. Okay, so there you have printemps, or cinnamon roll, and floors. So the next step we're going to do is you're going to take your pencil, your number 2 pencil, and we're going to work on the printemps. And I'm going to move mine around just so that I can get to a little easier. And everywhere that it appears that it's underneath, where you had to stop and pretend like it's going underneath, you're going to put a little bit of graphite down. And I use this side of my pencil just so that you're not going to divot the paper. And if you have very small little cinnamon rolls, you're not going to need a whole lot. In fact, it's good to kind of learn on bigger ones. But if you made them small, it's okay. You just don't need to put a lot on there, because when we start blending it, it's going to kind of overtake them a little bit. And the more you do this, the more you'll learn what shapes and everything work best, especially when you start blending. So if you need to pause, go ahead and finish shading, putting the graphite down. If you're already done, or if you're back, then we're going to start blending. So I'm taking my tortillon, but like I said, if you have a Q-tip, you can even use your finger, but if your finger has oils in it, and so it can get into the paper. But if you also have, just roll up some tissue and put it on the end of your pencil or the end of your pen, and you can use it that way. It's not as good, but it works. And you're going to, in little circles I find are best, kind of blend it out. So you're going to keep some of the white, but you want to make it have that appearance that this is now over top of that. To see, that one is over top of that because there's shading there. There's a shadow. Okay, like that. And you eventually, your tortillon or your Q-tip or whatever will have enough graphite on it that you don't even have to use the pencil too much. And that helps when you do have a smaller one, that you don't want to overwhelm it. Like that. Now these bigger ones, what I sometimes like to do is take a little bit, again using the side of the pencil, and kind of go over it, kind of go around it some. Might put some just on the side. And you're going to blend it right on top of the line. So it's going to look something like that, and it kind of gives it some dimension so you can see more of that. If it's a cinnamon roll, you can kind of see where all the cinnamon would be. Add a little bit on that one. And there you are. Okay. Okay. What you can do too is take it and kind of put it from a distance from you. Hold it up at arm's length just to see where it might need a little bit more For instance, I think this one might need a little bit more here. Like that. Okay. So if you need to, you can pause and just come back when you're done. Okay, welcome back. So, for the next one, this floors, what we're going to do is, again, using the side of your pencil, you're going to kind of go right on top of the lines. I tend to avoid going on the actual, like a big section of ink, because the graphite will make it look shiny. Okay, so this floors is fun because the more you do it and more like curved you make the lines, you can really have a lot of movement and play with it. So, and then you're going to take whatever you're using for blending, and you're going to go right on top of the line. And you're going to end up with these really cool, and the reason they call it floors, I think, is because it kind of reminds you of the old tile floors you might see in an old bathroom. Or for some reason I think of trains. I don't know, like a train station. I don't know why I think of that, but it's a very old and classic tile design, I think. You can also, now that you can see that Torchion has graphite on the end, and I might go around each one to kind of give it a little bit more depth. You don't have to do that. Just kind of, you can see how different it makes it look. You can also just do it around that as well if you don't want to do the whole line. So if you need to, you can pause here and finish up your section, and we'll go on to the next step. Okay. Now you can see how most of the pencil lines that we started with have kind of disappeared. If you want, you can always blend some of them out as well. If you don't like that look of the border, you can blend it out. Or you can add like a full border around it with the pencil. Okay. Okay, and take a look. So the next step is that we appreciate it. Take a look at it from a distance. Turn it. It'll look completely different angles that you have. And you might find like, oh, I like that better. I like that better than the way I did it. There's no up or down in Zentangle. Okay, and the last step is to initial or sign. The original tiles have a place on the back where you can sign and date it. Sometimes I will hide something in a tangle, or you can just initial it wherever. And there you have Printemps and floors. So just to review the steps, we have gratitude, we put the dots in with pencil, we put a border in pencil, we did a string where we divided the paper up into smaller segments, we actually tangled, we did printemps and floors today, and then we go shade with a number 2 pencil, and we blend. You want to appreciate it and sign it. Thank you for joining me, and I always love seeing what people create. So if you'd like to send me a picture of what you've done, I'd love to see it. You can send it to thetangledheart.com. Again, the Tangled Heart dot at gmail.com. Okay. And you can go to thetangledheart.com as well, where you can sign up for a newsletter. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you have a wonderful, fantastic day. And just remember to take time for yourself, because you deserve it. Bye-bye.